From Boss Track, it's Her Hype Squad, a show about amazing women who've made incredible strides as leaders in their industry. They're here to support you in your leadership growth, to encourage you and hype you up as part of your Hype Squad. Hi everyone, it's Michelle Harris back with another episode of Her Hype Squad. This week we have a very special guest, Jennifer Barnwell, president of Curator Hotel and Resort Collection. In our conversation, we talk about raising your hand and speaking up for career growth, work-life integration, leading with laughter, and so much more. I'm so excited to share this episode, but before we get into the conversation, I want to share a little bit of Jen's background to set the stage. Jennifer Barnwell is president of Curator Hotel and Resort Collection. Launched in November 2020, Curator provides lifestyle hotels the power to compete together while allowing its members the freedom to retain what makes their hotels unique. Before moving over to Curator, Barnwell was Senior Vice President of Asset Management of Pebblebrook Hotel Trust, a leading real estate investment trust, which was formed and went public in late 2009. She oversaw hotels on the West Coast in San Francisco and Los Angeles and had a team of 3 asset managers reporting to her. Prior to joining Pebblebrook Hotel Trust, Barnwell was Senior Vice President of Peninsula Real Estate, a private real estate investment fund based in New York. While at Peninsula Real Estate LLC, she was involved in all aspects of the fund, including formation, acquisitions, and asset management. Previously, Barnwell was Vice President of Tishman Hotel Realty LP, where she was involved in Tishman Hotel Realty's many activities, including acquisitions, management, asset management, development, and brokerage. Jennifer holds a BS from the School of Hotel Administration of Cornell University, graduating with distinction. Barnwell currently serves on the board of the Boutique Lifestyle Leaders Association. If you enjoy my conversation with Jen, be sure to subscribe to our channel and help more people find us by sharing this episode with others or by leaving a review, or subscribe to our weekly newsletter filled with things we found that we're excited about and were inspired by, along with valuable leadership advice to watch, listen to, or read. It's a little bit of joy for your inbox each Monday. You can subscribe at www.thebosstrack.com/weekly joy. Now let's get to my conversation with Jennifer Barnwell. Hi, Jen. Welcome to Her Hype Squad with Boss Track. We're so excited to have you here as a guest.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Pretty excited to talk with you today.
Yes, me too. And I know we've got a lot to talk about. I would love for you to start the conversation by just providing a little introduction of yourself so the audience gets to hear in your own words, who is Jen Barnwell?
I would be happy to. So I'm Jen Barnwell. I am currently the president of Curator Hotel and Resort Collection, which is, in my own words, a pretty fantastic collection of independent hotels and resorts. We have over 100 of them in our collection today, all in the US. So obviously I'm in the hotel industry. I've been working in the hotel industry for quite a while in all different roles, mostly on the ownership side of things. And luckily, fell into high quality, both branded and independent hotels. And I've been working in the ownership side of things and now transitioned to this new company just 3 years ago.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. And I know obviously we're about leadership here at Boss Track, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about your journey to reaching president of Curator Hotel and Resort Collection.
Yeah, happy to. How far should I go back? But I
Your
will,
highlights.
yeah, I'll go back a little bit. I mean, I'll go all the way back to college because I think that is definitely an important part of my journey. So just kind of like high level in general, like we were kind of lower middle class. I didn't grow up with a lot of money, and I was lucky enough to do really well in school and other activities. And I ended up going to college at the Cornell Hotel School, which was fantastic and wonderful. And I was going to school, but I was also playing volleyball and I was also working at the hotel kind of all at the same time. So very early on, big thanks to my parents, just a pretty intense work ethic and, very focused on studies and, just trying to do the best I could in everything. And came out of school, went right to a firm in New York City that was an ownership group, but our tagline, we are vertically integrated. So it was a great place for a young person right out of school to end up because they did so many things in the hotel industry. So they owned hotels, they um, brokered hotels, like meaning buying and selling hotels for other people. They built hotels, they managed hotels, they oversaw from an asset management perspective hotels for other owners, and they developed hotels. So, finding a piece of land and figuring out how to secure it and what kind of hotel to build on and get that hotel built and owned and operated. So I did that in New York for quite a while. I was in New York City for 14 years, which is quite a hustle. Somehow I survived. And then, our industry, maybe like other industries, is really big on networking, and you kind of only have one degree of separation maybe from anyone else in the industry. And someone who I'd worked with in New York was just creating and launching a new ownership company and actually publicly traded REIT. And I got the call and, did all the interviews and moved from New York City down to the Washington, D.C. area back in the summer of 2010. So that was a big move. All my friends at the time in New York were like, oh, just go give it a try. You can always come back, which was what they were saying. So 13 years later, I didn't go back, but I got to come down and work on the public company side of things, which is pretty different from more of the private companies that I had worked with, just in terms of all the processes and the filings, and everything is pretty strict and focused when you're a public company. And ended up decompressing from New York City, which was a good thing. And within this company, is pretty much a startup, so I had a lot of opportunity to kind of make my mark and really work hard and make sure everyone else here knew I was a hard worker and smart and focused on the right things. And I got in early, which was amazing, and the company continued to grow, obviously, still around 13 years later, and got to take on some leadership roles here, and that luckily led me to Curator, where I am today. So the company I came down to the DC area to work for then launched this brand new company called Curator and asked me if I wanted to do it. So that's where I went from, being an analyst at a hotel company back in 1996 to director, VP, SVP, and now I'm a president of a company.
Yeah. Well, two questions from that. So you knew right away you wanted to be in the hotel industry. Did you have a passion for that, or how did
You
that come
know,
about?
I'm glad you asked. I can thank my sister for that. Like, I have an older sister, and somehow she knew she wanted to be in the hotel industry. I'm not even sure how. So she was actually at the Cornell Hotel School too, like at the same time
Wow.
as me. We're 3 years apart. And she was like, why don't you get interested? Just come into the hotel school. It's so great. And it really was great because you have this, big university, in Ithaca, Cornell. But then the hotel school, the joke used to be it was like Statler High School because the hotel school was really small, within the bigger university. But it was so focused on everything related to hotels. And we had a hotel right on campus where we could
Mhm.
work at and get all this practical experience. So I didn't know I wanted to be in hotels. Thankfully, my sister suggested it and I went along with it. But our paths did end up diverging because she is so good and so interested in the operations and the front line of hotels. And I kind of learned pretty quickly I wasn't really suited for that. I was more, analytical and doing contracts and agreements and like trying to, do the deal making side of things. So she's pretty amazing on the front lines dealing with guests and employees all day long. And then I sit in my office and do other things.
That's great. Would you say there are some key highlights or moments in your career that where you made a move or did something that really led to your climbing up the ladder, I guess we would call it? going from analyst to director to VP to now president?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is, I mean, just raising your hand. So I think it can be kind of a stereotypical viewpoint, but we need to make sure we're not like making ourselves smaller or like unnoticed. And it can be hard for females and girls and women sometimes to be so outward facing and so vocal. But that was part of, I had to work on it, but I really wanted to, that saying, I wanted to be in the room. Like I wanted to be part of the most important projects that were going on at the whatever firm I was working on at a certain time. So some of it is kind of tactical and strategic, like trying to, align yourself with the, like you kind of, after you're somewhere for a little while, you kind of know the lay of the land and who's working on the higher profile things. So just trying to get that relationship in place and make it known that you want to work on those kind of things and you're available and you're motivated to do that. And um, in the case of, my background, it was always kind of these, I want to say like high pressure, like really busy corporate offices, doing all these deals and everything. And it can mean, you're in meetings and working on analysis all day long for like really long hours. And that's just, I was comfortable with that and kind of where I wanted to be, improving myself. So I think speaking up, offering and asking to be on projects definitely yielded a lot of positive results for me.
Right. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but can you think of a time to just give the audience an example of how you did that, just for them to kind of visualize, like, what can they do or how can they approach something to get on that project or to speak up when they should really be speaking up?
Yeah, I mean, the way I did it early on was just asking a lot of questions. So
Mm,
hopefully the culture, of the firm where you may be is kind of more of an open door. And that's most of the places I've been in. It's like everyone, has a door open and wants to have conversations and discuss what's going on. And if, the door's closed, like someone's, on a conference call or an important meeting and can't be interrupted. So I was always, it was actually kind of funny now. I'm like remembering all this. Sometimes you're just like lingering around. I did a little bit of
yeah.
that, early on, just like waiting, like, when's that meeting going to be over? When's their door going to pop open? When can I just like stick my head in and be like, can we talk about this thing, sometime soon? Or, can you go grab a coffee and just tell me what this project was about? Or combination of all these things, honestly. And if something else, I'd really like to work with you on, whatever the next thing is. And it wasn't me, as a 23-year-old running down to the CEO's office back then. That wouldn't have been encouraged and they wouldn't have like let me in the door just at that firm at that time. But it was more, um, I mean, I don't really like the term like the lower level, like the more kind of mid-level
Mm,
people that I knew were getting assigned to kind of the fun and interesting projects. I would target them in terms of just trying to just stand in their doorway and say, oh, would you be willing to tell me about this project sometime? Or, oh, when the next thing comes up, I'd love to work, I'd love to be your analyst on that and work on it. So it was me putting myself out there just to let them know that I was interested and I want to work on the next thing. So it was something proactive that I did.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm wondering, I don't know if you are in a work from home situation now. How would you translate that to people today that are working from home and they're like on Zoom or Slack and they don't have the ability to stand outside the door, like watch for a
Right.
meeting to end. Like, do you have any suggestions, maybe even what you've seen that works with you at your office?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I do kind of come down on the side of like, I do feel like there's some, depending on what you want to get out of, are you viewing this as a job or are you viewing this as a career? I feel like there is something lost in the completely remote situation, or, mostly remote situation.
Yeah.
Where we are in Curator, we're a small company, but we sit within the larger Pebblebrook company. During the real lockdown and real tough part of the pandemic, we were mostly working from home. Some people were coming in, the senior executives were still coming in every day, and anybody could come in anytime they wanted, really, but most of us stayed home for various reasons. But we've been back in our offices 4 days a week for a long time. I mean,
Okay.
probably at least a year and a half. And just the team that's here, that was always communicated that that was going to be the case at some point in the future. So it didn't come as a surprise. And we all really like each other and know each other really well, and we like to interact. And you can't replicate that exactly remotely.
Hmm.
Um, so the best thing I could suggest would be it's the same kind of thing. You have to be proactive about the outreach. And, will you do a one-on-one video call with me for 15 or 20 minutes to someone who you're interested in learning about them, again, or learning about their career path, or learning about what their view is on certain things, reaching out and saying, can we just do a video call for 15 or 20 minutes? I mean, who could say no to that? I mean, that's like
Hmm.
totally palatable. And then take it from there. Where I am today, it's just almost the complete opposite. I mean, there's young people here that, I, excuse me, mentor, and even those that aren't my direct mentors, I go out and we go grab some coffee or we grab lunch or something. So in person is really fantastic. But if you don't have that possibility, just reach out and see if someone will do a video chat with you. We did a lot of those during the pandemic, so it's not
Hmm.
out of the realm of possibility.
I appreciate you sharing that because we have a very heavy focus on networking and relationship building,
Hmm.
and that's really something that comes up quite a bit, like in this. I wouldn't even say new environment anymore. It's been a couple years, and I know a lot of people are going back to, working in the office most days of the week. So, but there are still some people out there, and they're, trying to figure out how to make those connections when you can't just be in the lunchroom where you might
Right,
just be able to run into them real quick and say hi and introduce yourself.
right,
So it's just like a new way of connecting, and it's definitely not as subtle as it used to be able to be because you have to do
right,
that direct direct outreach.
right, right, right. Yeah, and even if I think about, making connections outside of, my day-to-day workplace, I mean, LinkedIn is really great too. I mean,
Hmm.
I field a lot of discussions and messages through LinkedIn that end up resulting in a video call, because I'm not even in the same, city with some people that I want to learn from, or if they want to learn from me. So it's just that initial outreach,
Yeah.
and most people are willing to put some time into helping other people.
Yeah. I want to switch a little bit. You talked a little bit earlier about the challenges that women can have, like for one, speaking up and making yourself heard. What are some challenges, maybe outside of that, that you faced moving up in the hotel industry as a woman?
Yeah, I think I don't want to date myself and make myself seem or sound really old, but if I think back, so I was coming out of school in the late 90s, and even like the back half of the 90s and the early 2000s, in the place I was in, which was corporate office, ownership groups, dealing with, banks, investors, brokers. It was a total boys club. I mean, it just
Yeah.
was. And I liken it to, we're just, there's guys everywhere and they're just comfortable with each other. And all they do is talk about sports, and, they talk about golf and they want to go golf together. And it's very cliche, but it's very accurate. Like, I was there, and I never really saw, I never really saw these men, depending on what level they were on. I mean, leaving early to like do some family obligations, or maybe they were, but they never spoke about it, right? So it was like
Mhm.
a mystery. Like, are these guys even married? Like, do they have kids or families? Like, it was a total mystery, and no one, ever talked about it. And I didn't see women. I mean, there was, in that first job I worked at, and it was a long time. I mean, I was there from 96 to '05. There, when I first started, there were, one or two females. They made a certain choice. I mean, maybe they would have a different story. When they had a child, they did not come back. So it was like, these are the things that were like, I was seeing firsthand. It was like, okay, well, is it because they weren't welcome back, or they didn't get time off, or what was the situation? And there was like one woman who was, at a senior level, was the general counsel. But other than that, it was all men, and it was very buddy buddy. And even back in those days, we had to wear suits every day,
Mhm.
like full suits. So it just felt harder. It was like the guys are in, their suit uniform. They all look the same. It's not hard for a man to, put on a suit and tie. And I have to go and find like 5 different suits for every day of the week and not repeat them. And they, on the amount of money I was making at the time, and the, oh my gosh, the pantyhose and the high heels and all that stuff, it just felt like harder, and it felt like we were so different than them, and I didn't have a lot in common with them. And there was there was no one. All the admins were women. It was like
Mhm.
all the offices were filled with men, and all the admins were women. And there was a couple, there was me, like my year, there were a couple women who were like in the analyst program. And then after me, there were maybe one or two more over time, but it was always the majority were men. So, I mean, that was, I look back at it. I mean, at the time, it was just like, oh, I guess this is what it is, and I have to deal with it. And it was hard to relate, because we had different interests and kind of different mentalities. And there was a lot of bad behavior on their part that I've thought of and looked back on from time to time that was inappropriate. I mean, no one could get away with that stuff today, thankfully.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is just how it is in this industry, like this specific kind of like corporate office, real estate industry. This is just how it is, and this is how they act. And, I just need to roll with it. And I need this job. Like, I don't have, I have a very expensive apartment in Manhattan that I share with my
Yeah.
sister, and I have to pay rent. And a lot of it was just kind of getting through it and dealing with it and kind of ignoring it to get the job done, because always thinking and hoping there was going to be something more later in life, and thankfully there was. But
Mhm.
yeah, going back to those days, quite a while ago, it wasn't great. And it was
Yeah.
just like, fight your way through it and put your head down and do it. And I wouldn't maybe act the same today if I was a 22-year-old or 25-year-old in those situations today. I would definitely speak up and, be going to HR, or maybe in a non-threatening way, tell them at that moment in time, this is not appropriate. It's making me uncomfortable. There's other ways to approach it now, but back then I didn't have the skills back then.
Yeah. I understand. So when you're mentoring women and or talking with women, I mean, I know the environment has changed quite significantly. Do you see them running into their own challenges as a woman growing in their careers?
The most of the conversations I've been having are in a very positive light, or they're
Hmm.
just trying to figure out what they want to do. I haven't, the conversations I've mostly had with younger females are about finding, in a very positive way, they aren't in bad or uncomfortable situations today. They just want to figure out what they want to do and what is the right fit for them. They're very vocal about, kind of in a good way, again, what they like and don't like about their current situation. It's more about, how do I get to the next thing that's specifically what I want to do. I think there is still, from what I see, you know, people are paying more attention. So like where I am today, it's very obvious. I mean, I think we may even be like in total, you know, the bigger the parent company as well. I think we may be like 50-50 male, female, which is fantastic. I
Yeah.
think there's been so much growth in company boards with female representation. It's just at the highest level, we're nowhere near where I
Mm.
would like to be or where I kind of think we should be. It's still so male heavy. And we just have to keep having these conversations. And part of it is having these conversations with men, right? And finding advocacy and finding solidarity with them and bringing it to their attention in a clear, kind of direct, but non-threatening way, and seeing who can support us, you know, and recognizing where we still need to make a lot of improvements. Because I still think there's lots of hangover from the past, and you know, men are comfortable seeing other men in leadership roles, and they're used to it, and it's still a rarity to have a female CEO,
Yeah.
a female in the C-suite at all. So to get back to the original question, and you know, having these conversations with younger women, it's like have the vision, if that's what you want in life, have the vision to see yourself there and think about how to get yourself there. Don't think it's not a possibility, because still in that C-suite in most companies, there's no females, but that's going to change over time. So see yourself there and know it's possible, even though we're not where we need to be yet, because things have gotten better, like on the boards and within companies in total, like I said.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you can speak to this. I know a lot of women are hesitant to want to move up into a like executive role just because of what they think they have to give up and the balancing family and life and all those other things that women manage. And I'm not saying men don't these days too. You see a lot of that, but I think there's like a perception too that you have to give up so much. And of course, you know, there is some of that, but I'm wondering if you could
Hmm.
talk to that.
Yeah, I would love to. I think part of it is just my story specifically. I found my husband and had kids much later in life. I mean, I didn't meet who was going to be my eventual husband until like, you know, my late 30s, and we had kids. I didn't have kids till I was over 40, which I'm a big cheerleader for all women. Like, whatever your timing is, it's your timing. It's great. You can have kids much later in life, thankfully. But I never thought about it because I mean, I had boyfriends and stuff along the way, but I was just single for so long that every time I had an opportunity for a promotion I did a pretty good job everywhere I was, kind of every year in this annual review process. I was really proactive about that too, like going into whoever my superior was at that time and going through kind of in detail. Here's all the accomplishments I think I had during this year, and here's what I want to do next, and here's the promotion I'm kind of eyeing, and here's the compensation I'm eyeing. Um, it takes a lot of practice, and it's kind of hard to do that at first, but I just made it my typical process every year. So, and I was generally single most of my life up until kind of my mid 30s. So I never even thought about a promotion or more responsibility ever holding me back or taking
Mm.
a toll on other things I wanted to do. But then moving into kind of the other part of my life where now I was like, I have a spouse and we're definitely going to have kids, and going through that whole process. I mean, maybe it sounds crazy. I never thought about it. I was like, it will just get figured out.
Yeah.
I never let that weigh me down or make me think I should turn something down. I mean, everything along the way at a certain point in life, like always have these conversations with my husband and how it's going to affect things, and, you know, bring him in, of course, on the decision process. But I was never someone who let that weight on me in a
Mm.
way that I would overthink or potentially turn something down. I was like, we'll just figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
I got to take this opportunity. How can I say no? And I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
Hmm.
Honestly. Yeah.
No, that's great. And it's great advice for people. I mean, a lot of times I think we do overthink what lies ahead. And if it's something that you want, you should, we should be going for it. And thank you for sharing that about the annual review time, because we just shared something about that recently to, really be prepared going into these discussions with your own self-assessments and kind of how to look at that. And you really have to be your own advocate. And that seems to, I mean, that's just a general theme.
Yeah. And I think again, I don't want to just be espousing all these like stereotypical things, but I do think maybe genetically or personality wise, it is harder for us to sing our praises, to use a phrase. And it's like, um, if you want to be taken seriously and you want to achieve certain things, I mean, you've got to make it happen. At least in this environment, again, I keep going back to my environment, like being,
Mhm.
a corporate office and in real estate. Um, no one is just gonna, give you a gold star or hand you anything. It's just because they think you're so great. I mean, you have to explain it to them because everybody has a lot going on and they're not gonna remember everything accomplishment, everything, you did all year. And they may not even ask you what you want. They'd rather just kind of hang back and let you keep doing what you're doing. So I have been very good about that. I think it is absolutely critical and so important
Mhm.
because one of the things I always tell myself is like, go out there, present yourself, ask for what you want, maybe even a little more than what you want. And the worst thing that's happened, they'll say no, or maybe, you know, you overshot it a little bit. So maybe they give you a little less comp wise, but it's explained. But the much worse situation would be to do nothing and then everything's already decided and the promotion isn't happening this year, but you hadn't asked for it. And the
Mhm.
comp isn't where you want it to be, but you didn't ask for it either. And you're really going to be stuck for that whole next year unless it's, such a terrible situation where you're going to look for another job. And then just to go back to part of your question was about, how to handle it and balance it. Uh, you have to have I mean, to do kind of what I do in terms of the intensity of my job and also all the travel that I have. I just have an incredible partner.
Mhm.
So I lucked out that way. And I mean, he kind of, when we were dating, I was traveling like crazy as an asset manager too. So he kind of knew, but he is the type of individual where there's no stereotypical roles in our household. So he has a little bit more flexibility with his job, I would say, than I do. I try to make up for that, when I can or in other ways, but um, he's working remotely, 4 days a week versus one, and he can do some drop offs and pickups, at times, that I can't, but we take advantage of aftercare. When we're really both strapped, we bring family in to help us.
Mhm.
Our neighbors are absolutely incredible. Maybe that was the one good thing that came out of COVID. We got to know our neighbors really
Yeah.
well. And so we all know we can rely on each other if we need help. I mean, my kids have had to go over, have happily gone over to our neighbors from time to time, when I was caught in a bind or needed some help. And I know any of my other neighbors would drop them off or pick them up, if we ever made that call. So you can do it. I don't know if I would ever use the word balance. It's just kind of
Mhm.
about like fitting it into your life, figuring out what's most important to you. And it is incredibly important for us to be present and spend a lot of time with our kids. So I do that when I can.
Mhm.
And I've already been to Denver this week. Next week, I'm going to be gone for 3 days. But I also say no to things. I mean, there's a lot more I would like to do. Everyone would love to, go to more conferences and network more, but I do say no to things so that
Yeah.
it's not overwhelming and I'm not gone all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, congratulations, kudos to your husband.
I
That's
know.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful. I just saw a video, I think this morning, that was about a guy saying, "I'm not going to let my my wife be a married single mom." So, and it showed him like doing all the chores around the house.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's hopefully, more and more men are looking at it from that perspective.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of things online about the different generations too, about how the most kind of current generations are much more interested and are following through, with the parent father roles than maybe
Mhm.
had been accepted many years
Yeah.
ago. So listen, I am in a really great situation. I just try not to make it too overwhelming for him.
Mhm.
And I can, because
Yeah,
our
and
kids are little and we have two of them, so it's a lot, but
yeah.
they grow up fast, so we're trying to spend as much time with them as we can.
Yeah, I understand, especially if they're in sports, it just can become a little overwhelming sometimes.
That's what I hear. We're not quite there yet,
Uh,
but
okay.
yeah, we still have our weekends to ourselves, so we're living in that space as long as we can.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, enjoy it while it lasts.
Exactly.
I did want to go back to what you mentioned earlier too about speaking up and asking, like asking for more than what you want, because it's so interesting. We go into those conversations so worried and scared, and but what's the worst the worst that's going to happen is they say no or not right now, or well, this because of this, and you negotiate, but they're not going to say, oh, you're fired because you asked for
Right.
that.
How
So
dare how dare you come in and advocate for yourself and
yeah,
expect more for your accomplishments? Yeah, that
yeah.
never happens. And it is, I mean, listen, even now, I typed up this thing for myself, talked to the senior staff about myself, even at this point in my life. And it's still like, I take a lot of time and thought in it. I practice it. I read through it a lot. I'm very kind of detail oriented and, the numbers and kind of where they should be, where I think, others in the market are. So it's always, at least in my experience, it's always going to be well received if the time and attention is put into it
Yeah.
in every case. And what I tell my team, I absolutely love it when they come in and talk to me about what their accomplishments have been and what they want to accomplish in the next year. It makes me so happy. Like it's not, I don't view it as just like this thing I've got to get through. I mean, when someone wants to put some time on my calendar to talk to me about their accomplishments again and like their career and what they're looking to do in the next year, and an idea of what they can expect, like what their title currently is, like what it should be. And I'm talking male or female. The males tend to do it more than the females, which hopefully we can encourage everybody listening, on the female side of things to do that, because the males are definitely doing it. So we have a little catching up to do, and just be confident about who you are and what you do and what you want. And in all cases I've been involved in, it's always received in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to say that I can concur on what you said. It was always the men on my management team that would come in and just be very vocal about what they wanted and where they wanted to be and when was their next promotion. And
Hmm.
luckily for the rest of my team, I was the kind of leader who was very involved in their development. So I would, have those conversations and be proactive about that. But if I wasn't that type of leader, like I can clearly see where, they would get left behind. I mean, there were
Yeah,
different,
because
probably different experiences, but
the leader in that case, not you, would say they must be perfectly happy
yeah,
and they're
exactly.
okay with what they're doing and what they're getting. So why would I just do something else? Like, why
Right.
bother? Yeah.
Right. And it's all about like then the focus on, well, this is the guy that's coming to talk to me all the time. And he clearly wants this. So
Hmm.
how are we going to get him there? versus somebody who's not coming to you and
Right.
making your brain like go to that
Right.
different focus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I know we didn't cover a lot of what we're going to talk about, but I do want to kind of keep on theme with what we're talking about and understand, like, from your perspective, being at, the highest role, president, how would you say that your leadership style has changed? Like, do you feel that you're a different leader today based on your experiences versus when you maybe started in your first leadership role?
Yeah, I think there's been at least a little bit of an evolution there where it's important to me personally to make sure all of my team members know that just, at a baseline level, I actually do care about them.
Mhm.
And I want to have that relationship where they can feel open about, saying just about anything. So, um, always bringing up new ideas and new suggestions, but also it's okay to ask certain questions or point out things that, you know, could be characterized as maybe critical or criticism, because all of that is going to make us better. So I think I've evolved in more of a way that criticism, if we want to call it that, or, bringing up things, it's important to the conversation. It's important to moving us forward and making sure that we're the best we can be. And we as a company continue to get better and to evolve. And criticism, I mean, it's part of maturity. So
Mhm.
criticism can be really hard to hear and to take. And probably early on, I was, very defensive about anything in that realm. But again, with more years of experience and maturity, I go to this place where let's bring up everything and talk about everything just to make ourselves better. And maybe some criticism was unwarranted, or there's a reason, we do things or things are a certain way, and we talk that through, and maybe nothing changes, but other criticism can lead to really effective changes to make us better.
Yeah. I think that's so important for leaders and for newer leaders listening to really create that environment where it's acceptable. So it gives people the freedom to not be so worried about bringing
Hmm.
something up and to start giving them that, I don't know, giving those opportunities to practice and how to address something and bring it up and not be, I'm talking about giving criticism, but also in
Right.
turn, like that helps you understand the more you give critical feedback or just feedback, the more you understand the value in it and where it's coming from, and it's easier to accept. Because you're
Yeah,
right, it can
feedback.
be later.
Feedback is the word. Like feedback
Yeah.
should always be welcome. Yeah.
Yes. Completely agree. Completely agree. And there's so many examples and companies that they have different exercises they do, or build that into the foundation of their weekly meetings to really help people feel comfortable doing that. So there are tons of examples for people to look at that who are listening and want to really try to incorporate that more into their team and focus.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. We have, I try not to over meeting, as they say, my team
Yeah.
either, right? But, we start off Monday of every week with an open forum of, what's everybody up to? What's top of mind for you? What can I help with? And that's also part of it. They don't always take me up on it, but it's like, I want everybody to be set up for success. And if you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting something over the finish line, but you're trying as hard as you can, you know, bring in the other resources, like including me. I'm like, I'm not above anything and I never have been. So I try to foster it through that, but balance it with, the other thing I should say is balance it with some fun.
Yeah.
So I got to say, like, the evolution of some of the technology we use has been really fun. So we are very focused and effective and efficient people, right? But we still like each other, and we are still learning about everybody's personalities. And if you could see our Microsoft Teams chat from time to time, I think it would crack you up too. I mean, I just have the most humorous people on my
Wow.
team, and the memes and the GIFs or whatever you call them that we like slide through to one another, and the emoji reactions and everything. It helps relieve some pressure from time to time and make sure we're still having fun
Yeah.
because we all should be enjoying and having fun with what we do and where we're spending our time. So there's also a little bit trying to balance that too. It's not early in your career. Maybe you're just trying to make a name for yourself and really get things done. And maybe you forget about the personal side of things, but we do
Mhm.
try to have some fun here too.
How did you cultivate that? Because I know it can be challenging when somebody is it can be challenging for some leaders to get their team over the fact that they're a leader, so they might be very hesitant to they might be like very open with doing that with each other and like great, we've got a great team, but then when anytime the leader enters the chat, like it's so I'm curious like how you cultivated that so that you're involved in that fun.
Uh, yeah, I'm sure there's other fun that I'm not involved in, and that's okay. So I'm not going to say it's a perfect situation. But I think that part of it is part of it is like geography, as simple as that is. So everyone's kind of grouped together,
Mhm.
and it's this open door plus combination of kind of open cubes where some people sit, and well, I should say and I learned this from other leaders, I've worked with over time. I don't just sit at my desk, behind my computer screen all day. I mean, go out and like talk to everybody and say hi and ask them about themselves, or, make crack some joke about something. And then it's just the technology is so easy now. I mean, we have a group chat for the whole company, and part of it is being involved in it. So I try to crack a joke in there. If someone sends a funny GIF and it's like hilarious, it's like, it's really simple. It's just like put an emoji on it or just say, LOL or whatever. I mean, it's pretty easy. Just be involved
Yeah.
and again, listen, I have a small team. I mean, I have a team of 10 people. So I'm not running a 50 or 100 or multi-billion dollar corporation, but my team or in a small team environment, it's pretty easy because you just actually physically and verbally interact with people so they know you're around and that you have a personality too. And
Mhm.
then the technology makes it easy with the teams chatting and the texting and all these like funny graphics, just like laugh along with them and know
Yeah.
that it's okay. Like it's okay to crack a joke and have some fun in these chats.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I'd like to switch over to some of the standard questions we ask our guests, if you're okay with
Oh,
kind of
great.
switching the
Yeah,
conversation a little bit. Well, one, and we talked a little bit about mentorship earlier and that you mentor others. Is there somebody that you can look at that was a significant mentor to you in your career?
for sure. Really quickly, I'll mention three of them. So when I was thinking about this, there was very early on in my career. So like I was in my 20s working on some financial deals at the ownership company was on. I think we were doing loans, like CMBS loans way back when, with these big investment banks. And the law firm that my employer was working with at the time, it was a female Asian partner. And it was like, whoa, where did she come from? She is by the way, total dynamo, like insanely smart and so effective and really clear and great negotiator. And to her credit, she made time for two of us. There were two, young women in the analyst program at that time. And she would take us to lunch and just be like, we live in this like man's world right now. Just like keep at it, and be tough. And she would give us some advice, which I thought was invaluable and like just made me feel so good. And then just later on in my career, just coming across, there was another woman in another hotel ownership company. And she literally started this group. Like we would go to these hotel conferences every year, and it was just a sea of dark suits, and older men. And you would be like, oh, there's a woman, there's a woman, there's a woman. And she created this group where all the women would get together and have our own cocktail party. And it started to become a joke. The guys would be like, oh, you have your own girly cocktail party we can't go to. And I was like, oh my God, the word's getting up. This is amazing. So she created this group where we would come together at these big conferences and find time for ourselves. And then the third one is just this amazing interior designer that I've had the pleasure to work with kind of, over the last 13 years. And she's was a single mom really early in her career, built her whole company out. She has her own interior design firm. And she's just like a truth talker, like really direct. And she's such a good mentor for me. And we talk all the time. So thankfully I've had a lot that I've, taken a lot from and felt supported by.
Oh, that's amazing. And I really like that term, truth talker. Like you know exactly what you mean when you say that. Um, do you have a routine or a ritual that you do daily that helps you with your mental or physical wellness?
I do. So hopefully I don't sound like totally lame to your listeners and your viewers, but just keep in mind, I'm at this point in my life where I have a big job, and I work a lot and I have very little kids. So there's just a couple things. It's like in the morning, and one of us is always up early with our 2-year-old, but even if I am, it's like I have this amazing coffee machine at home and I make this, wonderful cappuccino. And it's like, okay, this is like centering me for the day. And then at night, honestly, which also keeps me sane is once the kids are in bed, so say like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, is just like showtime. It's like whatever, I can watch one episode of some show that I'm really into. It helps me decompress, right? It's just like, so that's where I am right now in my life. It's like amazing cappuccino in the morning. And then I watch, some amazing episode of some series that I'm into at the time at night to decompress. And then we go to bed really early.
Yeah. We didn't talk about it, but what are your kids' ages?
6.5 and 2.5, a girl and a
Okay.
boy.
I didn't realize a 2-year-old, so it
Yeah.
puts things into perspective quite a bit. Do you have a song that will give you a boost of confidence or energy when you need it throughout the day?
Oh my God, I'm so glad you asked me this because I always have one. Currently, the song that I'm totally obsessed with and really gets me, high it's called Unstoppable by Sia.
Yeah.
I mean, it is such a powerful song, just the music alone, but then the lyrics, it's just, if I need a little pick me up and I play it in my car all the time,
Mm.
that's my jam, as I say with my daughter right now. Yeah, that's my jam.
Yes. That's one of mine. That's one of mine. I'm always surprised that never comes up as the response. So
Oh
I'd
yeah.
love to, yeah, I love that you brought that one up.
Oh yeah, I love it.
And do you have something that you've bought in the last year or so that's maybe $100 or less that's made a difference in your productivity or in your life?
Again, sorry to say it again. I hope your listeners don't think I'm completely lame. I'm also, and my sister warned me about this right before I had kids. She's like, "Oh, wait till you have kids. You like won't pay attention to yourself anymore. You'll only be buying stuff for them." And my husband was like, "Oh, no way, no way." So he's right. He still buys a bunch of stuff for himself, but I really don't. But the one thing, and it's been a while, but back on Cyber Monday, I was like combing the internet and I just never had them before. I got this amazing set of headphones, wireless
Um,
headphones that are just like life changing for me. Like I'm wearing them in the airport and I'm wearing them on, my flights and they're just pretty fantastic.
oh,
But I don't buy it
nice.
myself much actually these days. Maybe I should do some more shopping.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up and get the headphones that you got because I know
Okay.
I've been hit or miss with. I've been trying headphones and they either don't seem to be comfortable or they're not as noise canceling as I had hoped. So I'll definitely follow up with you on that.
Well, I want to make a shout out to you to your wired headphones. Like we're totally matching today. I use these. These are like the super old iPhone headphones, right? But
Yeah.
I've used them religiously, since the pandemic when all we do are video calls and I can hear everything, the microphone's right here. So I use these
Yes.
every day.
I don't know why I have the wireless ones that attach to my ear, and I
Right.
don't, these just are comfortable, easy to
Mhm.
plug in, and I haven't really moved fully away from them. So
Yeah.
yeah, every podcast you see the headphones hanging. And I really can't wear the ones that are over my head on
No.
podcasts. I've tried, I've looked at myself and I'm like, I don't know. I can't record
You don't like the
myself like
aesthetic.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know we're reaching our time, so thank you for being a guest. And as a guest on our podcast, you're officially part of our audience's hype squad.
Love
Do you
it.
have
Yay.
any parting words of wisdom, advice, inspiration that you'd leave everybody with?
Yeah, I mean, I think though I don't want to say like too much, but a couple of things I would note are if you find that you're the only woman in the meeting or in the room, my viewpoint is make it a source of power for you. It makes me feel good. I mean, of course, I notice and I'm like, what the heck? But I've chosen to view it kind of as a place of power. Okay, like I'm in the room. This is amazing. Let me do what I can to learn and participate as much as possible here, representing, the only female in the room. But pair that with always trying to find other women both that I can uplift, and then going back to the mentor conversation, women that I feel like can make me better and lift me up too. It's so important, and one of the things I've been trying to focus on.
Yeah, great words of advice. We don't talk about advocacy enough, and
Hmm.
so important for everyone. Well, Jen, if anybody wants to reach out to you, I know you mentioned LinkedIn. Is that the best place for them to find you? Where can they find you if it's
LinkedIn
okay
for
to reach?
sure. Yeah, I'm going to be under Jennifer Barnwell,
Okay.
and Curator is my company. Yeah, I've LinkedIn's a great tool. I'm kind of on it most days and paying attention to it. So that's the best place, I think. Yeah.
Great. Well, we will definitely share that in our show notes along with other things that we've talked about. And I just want to thank you so much for your time and appreciate you giving your words of experience and advice to everyone listening. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for recognizing me and having me on. This was a lot of fun. So thank
Yeah, of
you.
course. Yes. Great conversation. We'll talk to you soon. Bye
Bye.
bye.